Because think about it. Remember what they say on Star Wars? In a galaxy far, far away from a wall. It's like a long, long time ago from a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
Because Star Wars was technically in the past. It wasn't in our future. That's the whole crazy thing about Star Wars.
For real?
Yeah, the Star Wars movies were always based a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It was nowhere near Earth. Had nothing to do with humans.
Yeah. That's crazy.
So, do you think, this will be my question to you. Do you think aliens, what do you think about like, I mean, obviously there has to be life out there. I mean, if we evolve this rapidly, I mean,
Here, there has to be
because
plenty of other life forms out there.
Yeah, for sure, has to be.
Yeah.
I mean, we find life forms on Mars, like even if it's microbial life.
Yeah, maybe not as close as we would like, so we could like study it or some shit. But yeah, I think like just a little bit too far out of our reach. But I'm sure there's probably like another fucking world like this somewhere. Like there could be fucking at advanced Earth, you know what I'm saying? Like, or
They could be an
crazy,
advanced Earth. They could be like a Pandora where they're like a less advanced Earth, just fucking weird animals running
like
around.
Avatar, you know, like Avatar.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, that shit. For real, bro. That shit's crazy.
But you said something that kind of like was almost hitting the nail on the head is how far away.
Mm-hmm.
Because the one thing I like to express to people when I talk about space travel is the closest star to us. The closest other star to us is 1,000 light years away. That means
it would take us like what?
1,000 years at the speed of light.
1,000 years at the speed of light. Holy shit.
So that's one thing I was struggling. Let's say we were like kids dropped off at school. Let's say that our planet, let's say an alien ship drove by, said, I'm gonna drop you guys off here. We'll be back.
Yeah.
Just if they left to the closest star and came back, it would be 2,000 years.
And nobody would ever know.
2,000 years ago, we have a hard time knowing what happened.
No human would ever know.
We have a hard time knowing what happened 500 years ago for sure.
Yeah.
Like what happened 200 years ago, but then if you look at like 6,000 years ago, that's when Egypt was there and said that these gods came from the sky and all this crazy shit. If you look
There's a lot of evidence that leads to that conclusion.
There's a lot of stuff on this planet that would say it's either we do. The best way I could say it would be it's either we got out of we were either very skilled in stone 5,000 years ago. I'm talking about as skilled in stone as we are at technology now.
Yeah. Because
the precision in the pyramids is insane. One day we need to fucking go see the pyramids.
Exactly.
Might be doing a fucking podcast from the pyramids.
If you're watching now, you might be watching then, and we will definitely see you there.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, like
we're gonna have to check that out.
Yes, the pyramids. They said one thing I don't like is they say that the pyramids was built in 2,000 years. I mean, in 22 years. Sorry.
Yeah.
Don't mean to fuck that up.
22 years.
In 22 years, they'd have to cut, quarry, and lay one stone every 9 seconds.
Nah, no way possible.
Exactly, and then
No way possible.
There's a lot of stuff done in stone in the past that we cannot recreate today, like the crystal skulls. There are crystal skulls that do exist, and the thing that's fascinating about them is that they're cut against the grain of the stone. And if we had copper tools back then, we wouldn't be able to necessarily cut them.
Yeah.
And today we can't cut them against the grain. It's just the way it is. But then put this in like, I guess nowadays respects. I was watching this video about it's like, I believe it's called the A2 rocket engine that we used to get to the moon. how we made that rocket engine was we had a lot of skilled engineers sitting in a room for 8 hours a day, welding, building these parts, building one-off handmade parts, and then they would test them on rockets, or they would test them in certain applications, and then they would say, oh well, this one is a little too flared, we need it a little concave so it works better. And then the guy would go back, spend another 8 hours in welding. And they said because someone was asking the question is, why don't we use the rocket engine we used in the Apollo? It was the most powerful engine that we've ever made on this planet. It got us to the moon, and it was the most efficient. Rockets we use now are very inefficient. They go up in the atmosphere, and we dispose of them.
Yeah.
But they were saying that everything we do now is by machine. Fucking just like that. I'm not fucking carving out a dog. I could never probably carve that dog that good.
Carve my dog.
Exactly. And they say that automation has ruined certain things like a rocket engine or watchmakers. There's a big thing about watchmakers, how back in the day they would actually hand make gears, and then they would use gems as bearings because gems never wear out.
Yeah.
So they said now, in 100 years from now, we would have all the greatest digital watches in the world and computer printed watches, maybe even 3D printed watches, but a handmade watch, nobody would know how to do it. Like, fuck, I don't know how to hand make a watch.
Yeah.
I have my printer printed.
Yeah.
I don't know how to carve a dog. I have my printer printed.
Yeah.
And it's like, with some of these things, it's insane how you would just, you know what I mean? We don't think about it as the same way with the stone, but let's say, what if Egyptians were the same way? They just put so much effort into carving stones so precisely that we're like, oh, that...
Yeah, it's not possible.
It's not possible, exactly.
Yeah. But they could have, though. That could have been what they're, focused on 100% the whole time. Like,
Oh, yeah. And like we were talking about space travel and microbial life, I think about this often. I was sitting in the shower the other day thinking about this. Like, I was thinking about an alligator. You know Ducky, my little pet caiman.
Yeah.
I was thinking about, well, how does an organism evolve to where it's like, hey, I need some leathery ass skin. I need these film over my eyes so that I can see underwater, and I want a bunch of fucking teeth so I can fuck everything up. And then with alligators, for instance, you can't give an alligator any diseases. You can't give it AIDS. You can't get cancer. Like, its body will eat those things away. Like, you see alligators in the wild, they have arms missing and stuff. It's because they don't get infections. That's why they heal. That's why they heal and keep going. So I was picturing in my head the other day, it's picture, whenever the world starts, it's all these tiny microscopic little things, right? But picture they're there's billions of different little microbial life, right? Picture each one of those microbial lives are different aliens, right? And they're waging war against each other. And what they're doing is they're hey, you created an armored shell that I can't get through. I'm gonna create a poison, so I just have to bite you and inject you with poison. And then you're
Your shell's useless.
yeah. So he's well, I'm gonna evolve to make me have an anti-venom to your poison. So then it's well, then I gotta develop a jaw that can crush your shell and eat you anyways. And it's this battle has waged on for so long that they get alligators and fucking porcupines and snails and lobsters and all these weird fucking things.
That's what it is. That's what it is. Man. Yeah.
Dude, I think
Look
about
where we're at now.
Exactly, but I feel that's when we get back to the space travel thing, that's where it's so weird. I feel we are the oddest thing on this planet.
Yeah.
We are the oddest thing.
Yeah, because we're, unlike a lot of things,
But even a monkey, though.
yeah,
monkeys are our
we're
closest.
very similar to.
We're
other
similar,
things,
but just because we see similarities don't necessarily mean we're alike.
Yeah.
Just, I would say, I mean, sure. The thing is with humans is like if you put a tribe of monkeys in a climate that's 20 degrees colder, they're probably all gonna die. Sure, if
They
where
don't know what to do.
yeah, sure, if like let's say where they're living slowly changes in temperature, I'm sure they will adapt and evolve, slowly to adapt to those situations. But humans they just seem to like, let's just say,
Overcome
in a split second.
instantly, yeah.
Like when I went to Colorado, I live in Texas, guys. It's 100 degrees all the time here. Maybe we get to 40, maybe 40 degrees in the winter. And I went to the Winter Park, Colorado, in the winter, and it's -5 degrees there.
Yeah.
Within 2 days, I felt like I could live in this. It wasn't grueling, and that's like 50-degree change. It's a dramatic change. And then I think about, like, let's say if I had to create a type of machine, like let's say robots, AI, artificial intelligence, whatever. If I created a robot that was like a human, what would I do? What would that thing have to do to last forever? Or to be the perfect worker? Let's say I want to make a worker that's the greatest worker, can adapt, can overcome, can learn, can all this stuff. You'd want it to be able to learn. You'd want it to be able to do things. We have fingers, we have opposable thumbs. Not many things can do what we can do with our hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'd want them to replicate. You'd want these robots to make other robots.
But even better.
But then
time.
robots wear down, like gears and bearings and all these things wear down. So then would you want them to repair themselves or self-repair? And kind of one of those things where I was thinking, and I get back to the perfect worker or thing like that would be a human. We heal. When I get cut, my body sends messages to my arm to start making platelets so I can make a scab, and then once I stop the bleeding, my body starts repairing those cells. And I don't go to the supermarket and buy platelets and then buy cells and inject them into the spot. My body just does that.
Where do you get those from?
Yeah. Yeah. Where you got them cells, bro? You got any of them white blood cells?
The new cells today.
I got these, but yeah. So it's like, and then just the way we learn and adapt and think. Like there's like, I feel if you made a robot, you would find out very soon that they would get into these closed boxes. They would do this. Sure, maybe they'll replicate, fix each other, do this. But then once they did all that, I don't think they would ever look up at the stars and go, I want to go to that star. Let's all collectively build a rocket and go there. Like that's human nature.
Yeah.
Like I think they would get in this like Wall-E. Kind of like they would just get into this mode where they do the same thing every day. They would mine metal so that they could fix themselves. That's how I think it would be.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
What do you feel about
If you think we're, like you said, like the perfect workers, I mean, we could be here pretty much unknowingly, but still in turn pretty much like evolving. Like I mean it could be anything, bro. Like we're here obviously knowing that we're gonna keep reproducing and keep building and industrializing the earth and everything, but what's to say that, like you said, 2,000 years rolls around, whoever came before is now back and they want to see what we've done, boom, they just wipe out the earth, like pretty much the whole population. You know what I mean? And now they have a whole earth that is exactly what they wanted from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? Like not as much water, not as much, trees and everything. How much shit we've done to the earth, or it could be the complete opposite. Like This is weird, man. Because
I think if we had, like, let's say if aliens did exist and they, like, let's say they came here and dropped us off and we're kind of made in the image of our gods, the aliens or whatever.
yeah,
I would feel like there no description of I mean, there's some, but not many of them describe like thousands of aliens coming here. You know what I mean?
Only like 4 or 5.
4 or 5, or like Adam and Eve was 2,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
so. Let's say they can send these things, right? But we're just like cockroaches.
Yeah.
Or like, let's say they come here and there's like 10 of them, and they're like, bro, we're not. That's 7.2 billion of them motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like, what happened over the last 2,000 years?
Yeah.
Or like maybe like during the Black Plague, maybe they tried. Maybe they're like, bro, we're only like 5 of us. Let's try to poison all these fuckers.
Yeah,
And then we're
hit
like
'em- hit 'em
cockroaches.
with the hardest shit.
We hit it with the hard shit, but then we adapt and overcome that shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, what if we became this like feral pigs or something?
Yeah, like unstoppable power on accident.
Yeah, they
kinda.
like put us as these workers to mine,
Yeah.
and then they left, and then they come back and they're like, bro, all of our mining workers fucking populated this motherfucker.
Yeah.
Let's poison them. Then we're like, bro, only like 20% of these fools die before their body adapts to the poison, and they're immune to it, like cockroaches. Like, bro, what? And then they're they use so much resources trying to do this that they're like, fuck them.
Yeah.
We'll find somewhere. We